Alright, so hey guys, it's Techventurer back again here in the beautiful town of Warsaw. I met a lovely lad called Liam from Leeds, so thought we'd do a quick interview, a little insight into the life of Liam. And he's currently here studying English abroad. Well, studying English abroad would not be the right term, he's teaching English abroad. So we're just gonna have a little pint, a little chat, and obviously give you guys an insight into, I would say probably a newly pat of Poland would be a good description. So yeah, just like as you say, Liam, we've spoken a lot this week. We've met each other a couple of times. So just tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me what you're doing here. You know, how old you are, what you study, what you enjoy, basically.
So yeah, I'm 23. I trained to teach in the UK. I trained as a history teacher in the UK, and then came out here to teach English as a foreign language, which is something that's quite popular around the world. Obviously, English is quite a big language that people want to speak.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, being from Yorkshire, I don't quite speak it properly, but
yeah, the accent's a little bit hard to hear, but we can get through it.
But yeah, so I wanted to do that. I wanted to get to other countries. I'm not sort of that well travelled, so wanted to come to Europe and teach English here, and then might want to go to Asia as well. So Poland felt like a good country to come to, being quite close to home. Obviously, having that interest in history, having trained as a history teacher, Poland felt like a really good country as well to come to learn about and experience history, and especially being in Warsaw. Like, I think that obviously Krakow's quite the touristy city where a lot of people go to, and I don't want history, when people think of history in Poland, unfortunately it's like immediately going straight to the Holocaust and things like that, and it has been a big part of being here. Like, I've been to Auschwitz when I went to Krakow a couple of weeks ago. Obviously you've been yourself,
I have,
and when you've been to Krakow as well. But stuff in Warsaw, like you see areas that you have the ghetto boundary markers and stuff like that in the city that you see, and the Jewish museums and stuff like that, and a lot of stuff you see in Warsaw and stuff. Like, it was the largest Jewish community in World War II, so a lot of stuff to learn, but also like other bits of history as well, like medieval Polish history. There's Malbork Castle that I wanted to go to, that was kind of used by like Christian Crusaders in Poland, that I'd quite want to go to whilst I'm here. So like, it's an interesting history. It's not just, I think it's the thing to emphasise about Polish history, it's not just the Holocaust.
There's a lot more history behind it than just the Holocaust and World War II. I mean, we had a really nice conversation the other day. We were talking about the Warsaw Uprising towards the end of the Second World War, and I thought it was really interesting how much knowledge you had about that. I mean, obviously you study history, you enjoy history, but obviously, you know, one of the recommendations you kind of said is make sure you go to that museum, you go and see it, and we did while we've been here. But it's very nice to see someone who's insightful about history, enjoys it, and sees it as a passion. A lot of people sort of our age don't really find history as enjoyable as maybe other subjects or other things to do. So when you talk about certain things, we walked around the city a couple of days ago, and you were telling us different places and what they kind of symbolised, and you were saying about, like, obviously how modernised certain parts of Warsaw have become, but also obviously you have to remember that a lot of Warsaw had been ultimately destroyed at the end of the Second World War. And it was just nice to hear. It was almost like you could be one of those sort of, you find them like them tour guys that can do like city tours. And it was like we kind of got like a very insightful city tour from an English guy. It was so enjoyable to see.
It helped a lot that recently the weekend, maybe when you came out, I can't remember when you flew.
Sunday just gone.
Yeah, that day, on the Saturday, just the day before that, and on the Sunday I did 2 walking tours on the Saturday and 2 on the Sunday, so it did help a little bit having done that. But
that explains all the knowledge that was fresh on your brain.
I've always been, there's a lot of museums I've been to in Warsaw, the Uprising Museum, as you say, and the Jewish 1,000 year history of Jewish people in Warsaw, and Poland Museum, which is a really good museum, the Life of Communism Museum. There's a lot of museums I've been to, and there's a lot of museums I've still not been to, and it's great that there's those to go to, basically.
So you've been here now for 4 months, we'd say, on and off. Obviously you flew home for Christmas.
No, mate, sort of two months. Oh god, yeah, we're into February now. So kind of the end of November, came, and then I was here for 4 weeks, and I went back for Christmas, and I got back here on the 5th of January, and then middle of February now, so about a month. So yeah, about two months.
2 months. Okay.
And then and stuff. And yeah, I mean at first, because I'd never come abroad before, so the first sort of week or two that I was here, I felt quite homesick whilst I was here and stuff like that. And having worked in teaching in the UK a little bit, kind of, it was going from kind of knowing the school. I'd done 2 or 3 months in a school before I came here, and by that point I felt settled in. I knew people that I was working with there. I had got relationships built, kids that I was working with there, and then I came here and it's kind of starting afresh with all that, and it felt, the first sort of week or two I was feeling a bit down and sort of thinking, do I want to do this, do I want to come back after
overwhelming. Obviously it's a big change, new country, new language, new students.
We'll come on to the language.
I mean, I hold no criticism on languages. Anyone who knows me and my channel knows that I speak obviously I speak a bit of languages. I speak Spanish, but like to give credit to you, to come to a country like you say, you've never travelled abroad before. You've obviously sort of took like a big step into the deep end. You've gone into English in another country, and it's not an easy process. And I think the one thing I kind of wanted to get out across the table while we're sitting here is, would you recommend it to somebody else based on your experience so far?
I mean, at first it will be, depending on if you've lived abroad before. Obviously, if you're well travelled and you've lived abroad before and things like that, it might not be a. I don't want to say culture shock because it's still European and it's not. I expect that if I go to Asia after being here, that'll be more of a culture shock. But I definitely recommend it. It might be that you feel homesick a little bit at first, but you'll adjust to it and things like that. Like when I came back after Christmas, I didn't have any homesickness at all really. By the time I left here just before Christmas, I got used to the city. I got used to kind of being away from home, and I could have stayed for a couple of more days if I had done. Though I'd have had to isolate over Christmas because of COVID. But so I didn't. But yeah, I'd massively recommend it for people to come abroad. If it's not Poland, just kind of wherever you may be interested in. For me, it was just the European country that came up. It wasn't Poland for a really specific reason, but I'm really glad with the choice I made. I had a bit of a thing, the agency that I had offered me, they sort of said, would you want to go to Warsaw or Krakow or Gdansk, which is a city by the coast in Poland. And I just said I'm not too bothered. Having visited Krakow, as great as it is and as beautiful as it is, I'm quite glad with the decision I made with Warsaw. It's a big city. And I'd also really recommend people come here. I think obviously Krakow's more the tourist destination.
It's more touristy.
But Warsaw's a great city to come to.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I mean, we've been here a week, and we've took some recommendations from yourself and a friend of ours that we've both met called Adam. We've kind of looked online, done a few things ourselves, found some tours, had a walk around. I mean, we were saying earlier we've walked like over 100 kilometres this week. We had a nice giggle about that. But I think that it's really different to kind of see that Warsaw isn't as condensed, and I think it's a good point to put across because Krakow's a beautiful city and there's so much to do, but everything is kind of on top of each other. Whereas here, like, you know, you've got like the Palace of Culture and Sire just behind. It's like London back home, that not everything is on your doorstep. You do have to do this exploring. I mean, the one thing we haven't done while we've been here is obviously get the tram or the train or any sort of. Well, we've got a bus from the airport. But it is a very accessible city. Would you say that it's easy to get to places, obviously based on what you've been doing and where you've been so far? Absolutely.
I mean, obviously we talked a little bit about the language, so sometimes the street names can be a little bit difficult for someone maybe from England, but if you've got Google Maps and there's an app called Jackdo Jade, which I use a lot getting around, that will work out where you are. You type in where you want to go and it will work out the transport you need to do. Warsaw, I mean, obviously I've only been to Krakow. I'm wanting to get to a lot of cities like Gdansk and Wrocław and Poznan whilst I'm here. I think Warsaw is the only city in Poland that's got a metro, and it makes it really easy to get around. And then it's got the trams and the buses as well. It's a city that is very cheap to get around. Tickets will either be 3 zloty 40, which is about 50-60 pence, and or 4 zloty 40 if you wanted to travel for 75 minutes, and that's about 80 pence maybe. So it's such an affordable city to get around in, and also you've got so many options of the metro or the tram or the bus. So yeah, it's in terms of coming here, obviously you've walked a lot, and I think it is. I meet a lot of people who, when they come to Warsaw, they say that we've not done public transport. We just walk when we need to get somewhere, and I think it is a good way to experience the city. And you know, you're talking about me telling you a lot about Warsaw. That was kind of coming from me doing walking tours just before you got here. So I think it is a great way to experience the city. But if you're living here and you want to be getting around the city, public transport is great and affordable and things like that. So yeah,
it kind of ticks that box of being able to get around, and you know, it's easy. I mean, we got a bus, like I say, from the airport, and the bus was on time. It stayed its course. I mean, back home in England, I'm sure you could probably account for this up north, that buses, trains, any sort of network doesn't really run on the correct timing. So it's nice to hear that here in Poland and Warsaw particularly, that obviously you're getting, you know, trams, metro, buses, and they run cheaply, they're accessible, they're on time, and that's a big part of travel, because a lot of people rely on that sort of element to get around and see things. I mean, we've been quite lax because we've been here for a week, and a lot of people have said to us, you're going to Warsaw for a week, is that the right thing to do? And we ended up throwing in Krakow in the middle. But I think it's great. I mean, I was really intrigued. Obviously, we met you, I think, the second day we were here through like a mutual acquaintance. And it'd be lovely for Adam to be here. I'm sure he will see this at some point, and he'll make a cheeky comment on the video, as he does. You know what Adam's like.
Yeah, I hope he's having a good time in Cologne.
Cologne, we'll give a shout out to Adam right now. He's currently in Cologne doing another travel as a Polski traveller. So I'll give a shout out to his channel while we're in the middle of this little interview. I think a lot of it that I was interested in, and I thought that would be really good to kind of hear from you, is what made you want to teach English abroad? Where did that come from? Obviously, you've said you've trained as a history teacher. You've also had experience in that department. Was it just something that you kind of thought would give you experience to go home and teach in maybe 5-10 years when you've done Asia as well, or was it just something that kind of come across you by chance? Was it something that you just found by accident?
So kind of. It was training to teach history, and then kind of not finding a history teaching job, which was obviously really disappointing. And then I have a friend who teaches English as a foreign language in Spain. So I sort of talked to him a little bit about his experiences in Spain. He's sort of near Murcia in Spain, and spoke to him and kind of said, you know, do you enjoy it and things like that. And he's always, when he's come back at Christmas and things like that, he's always talks about it. So it's kind of that element. Another element of, as I've mentioned, I've not sort of ever really been abroad before or lived abroad before, apart from sort of family holidays when I was a lot younger. So wanting to, not been that well travelled, so wanting to get out and do that, and having just kind of 2 years with COVID where you couldn't go to
a lot of restrictions in place and stuff.
So it was kind of a mixture of that, and also, as you mentioned, getting some teaching experience being abroad, and things like that, to come abroad and teach, and then go back to the UK basically. And well, I'll sort of say I'm now open to maybe settling in another country, maybe Germany, or maybe somewhere maybe probably in Europe, instead of settling really far away, probably somewhere close to the UK, but
it's accessible to get home, and also away from the city of Leeds. Of course. Not that it's a bad place. I just mean that obviously sometimes you like to be outside your home city, and it's nice to obviously come out to somewhere like this, explore, and sort of be, I suppose, a tourist that isn't a tourist because you kind of live here. I think that kind of really leads me into my next question, which is ironic. Where would you want to travel now? You've kind of got a base in Warsaw, and you're obviously getting settled. The homesickness is gone, and you feel a bit more free and open to obviously travel and do things now. You've got that sort of that experience in your backpack, if you like. is there any places outside of Poland you want to see? Do you want to use this as a base to explore Europe as a continent, or?
I think it's quite a good base to do. So there's kind of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia going up on the sort of side between where Poland is to then Russia and the three countries
sort of the eastern side of the coast.
Kind of to go up there, and also I think it's also a good location to do sort of Finland and the three Scandinavian countries going through there. And I'd mainly do them just because I feel that it would be easy to do a trip through Europe from maybe France to Germany and
sort of the main
taking in
lands.
Holland and things like that. But I feel that if I go to those countries, as expensive as I've heard that Scandinavia can be, it's countries that not a lot of people go to, but you see a lot of kind of pictures and images and videos of people that go there, and I think it's a beautiful area to go to that I'd really want to go to. And then, you know, it's easy. Well, I suppose, you know, Norway's not that far from the UK, but you know, France and Spain and Germany are countries that I can go to at any time. But I feel when I'm in this area of the world, those areas to the north of Poland that I'd want to go to that I've mentioned, and then areas to the south, sort of like towards sort of Romania and things like that, and Serbia and Croatia.
But Montenegro,
as well.
Obviously you are a history buff, so you've got a lot of history down there. So I definitely think you'd appreciate Serbia, Montenegro, Croatia. I'm guessing you like a history that runs sort of like to do with the Soviet Union and the USSR. So you'll definitely find a lot of sort of places to go, things to see, and if you meet people, they'll give you a lot of insight into that. So yeah, I mean, that was great. I think the only final thing I want to say while we're doing this little interview is, if you could give someone or anyone who watches this a good thing to do while they're here, something you wish you'd done before you got here, and something you would enjoy to do in the future.
Something I wish I'd done before I got here. I know that's not quite the question in the right order, but something
that's fine.
Straight to mind. Getting a bank card that can work in any country. Okay. You can put funds onto it, and you can do that. I've got a Polish bank account now that I live and work here, but there's a little bit of a period where I was either using my UK bank card and getting foreign charges from that, and I was also using cash, which is always just a bit, obviously in COVID world, but also getting change and just having loads and loads of coinage, basically.
I have a safe at home. It's literally full of 10 or 20 different currencies. So I know that very well.
So yeah, getting a bank card would be something I wish I'd done. That I can just put funds on and use in any country. I know it's obviously a big traveller like yourself. You've got one of them.
I've got a little Monzo card, but I mean, like you say, you hadn't travelled much, and it's not a criticism, but obviously something you'd wish you knew and had done in the past.
Well, I ordered one. I can't think it was Monzo, but I also can't remember.
Probably Sterling or something. There's quite a few things that do.
But I'd ordered one and it arrived the day that I flew. When I came back after the new year. So, and then I just set up a Polish bank account and I've just gone with that. I might, obviously, I've got that card there and I can use it on different travels as well. The first question was, what would I suggest that anyone does when they're here? Obviously, it depends what the type of thing you're after. I think most people are going to do the old town, and I would suggest the old town massively. The UNESCO World Heritage Organisation made an exception for Warsaw Old Town. You have to be a certain amount of years old to get the World Heritage status.
Yes.
The Warsaw Old Town wasn't, because it was destroyed in World War II, but UNESCO made an exception for it because it's so beautiful, and I think that tells an absolute story of how beautiful it is, and you need to go there. And obviously you'll have a lot of clips to show people.
I mean, I'll probably add one in, or maybe just a snippet on another content video of how beautiful it is. I mean, we met there, not tonight, but a few nights ago we met, and it was a lot quieter than it was today. Obviously it was a weekday, so obviously we didn't have all the tourists in the middle of it, but it is an incredible sort of walk around. Obviously at the moment there's still the Christmas lights that run all the way down on the main strip. Obviously you've got the castle that's there. And obviously you've got like kind of the old town that runs up to the is it the Babacan, if I'm correct in saying? But yeah, no, definitely. And I actually can't remember the last part I asked you now. The last part of the question. I think I'm going to have to just not remember it because I've just been enjoying the interview that it's kind of just slipped the back of my mind. But yeah, I think on that note, we're going to do a little cheers and pleasure to meet you, Liam, and I wish you all the best with that adventure.
Thank you as well, Jay. Thank you very much.